In the first volume of MixTape Study, I shared a playlist of the matches I believe all wrestling fans seeking to broaden their horizons should see. My thesis is simple. Wrestling is far too big to fully experience by watching just the matches given 5 stars by Dave Meltzer, or 9 points plus on Cagematch. That's all well and good for finding consensus greatness, but it doesn't work for learning more about the sheer variety of wrestling out there, or for learning what you specifically enjoy. In Volume 1, I shared 10 matches covering wrestling from multiple promotions, eras and styles, while hopefully giving fans an inroad to branch out and find more great wrestling for themselves. This second volume continues that approach. 10 more matches chosen to hopefully introduce you to corners of wrestling you might not have seen yet. So let's not waste any more time and get started. This is MixTape Study, Volume 2. Match 1. Ryumago vs Atsushi Onita, 30th of April 1989. I started the first mixtape with the birth of shoot style wrestling, and I thought it fitting to start this one with the beginnings of independent wrestling in Japan. Pioneer Senshi is among the first independent wrestling promotions in Japan, and the main event of the first show saw the promotion's founder Ryumago take on possibly the biggest name in the history of Japanese independent wrestling, Atsushi Onita. The only footage we have of this match is a fan cam, which might sound like a limitation, but I think it really enhances the underground feeling of this fight. And a fight it is. An esoteric mix of elements of lucha libre, shoot style and southern brawling. It's an intense experiment that's messy in places, but really demonstrates how the boundaries of wrestling in Japan were shifting, and what the future innovations of Japanese indie wrestling might look like. If your only exposure to Onita is of the exploding barbed wire variety, I highly recommend you watch some of his earlier work, in All Japan as their junior ace, or in this match here. Match 2. Deonna Purrazzo vs Madison Eagles, 14th of April 2018. A submission match between two of the most skillful women on the independent scene. It's a no-brainer really. Purrazzo is often touted as one of the best technical wrestlers in the world, and putting her in the ring with one of the most well-rounded wrestlers there is was bound to create something special. The women treat each other, and the match itself, like an intricate puzzle to be solved. Watching Eagles perform the calculations to figure out her next move on the mat is great, and she and Purrazzo portray the struggle in a really entertaining way, Deonna having to go above and beyond to deal with the size of her opponent. The two trade holds exclusively for the first half of the match, a patient, deliberate stretch of grappling that builds the tension while being incredibly impressive and fun to watch. When the strikes do start coming, they come with a vengeance, as impactful and vicious as the submission holds. Overall, it's a great battle of wits and determination, a great example of the magic that comes with two similar style wrestlers when their chemistry is on point. Match 3. Danny Spivey and Stan Hansen vs Steve Williams and Terry Gordy, 7th of December 1990. The finals of the 1990 Real World Tag League see 4 of All Japan's biggest and baddest gaijin collide in one hell of a melee. It's a rough match in the best way possible, all 4 working incredibly hard and absolutely battering each other. Hansen and Gordy's brawling is unsurprisingly incredibly fun, and Danny Spivey more than holds his own here, having some really great exchanges with Doc, who puts on what I think is legitimately one of the best performances of his career. As it builds towards its conclusion, the big moves and near falls come thick and fast, and the crowd is entirely invested in every single one of them. With a down to the wire finish that couldn't have been more perfectly timed if they tried, it's a worthy final for the tournament, and a very entertaining powerhouse slugfest. Match 4. Buddy Rogers vs Lou Thesz, 21st of June 1950. 3 of the most iconic and significant competitors in the history of combat sports share the ring, as the Iron Man defends the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in a 2 out of 3 falls match against the original Nature Boy, with legendary boxer Jack Dempsey as special guest referee. If anyone said that old wrestling was boring or irrelevant compared to the wrestling of today, this is a match I'd point them towards. Rogers' heel work is completely timeless. He's an absolute master of his craft. Everything he does is timed so well and is so effective, and I really appreciate how hard he works to hide his cheating from the referee. A degree of care is taken that we rarely see today, and the influence he had on Ric Flair is obvious. This match worth watching to make those comparisons alone. Thesz likewise makes everything he does look so good, portraying a degree of effort we simply don't see today. The rope running is phenomenal, the pinfall and submission attempts look fantastic, and the finish to the final fall is sublime. I honestly cannot recommend this match highly enough, particularly for those who've never watched any wrestling earlier in the 70s. There's a lot to like here. Match 5. Kota Ibushi vs Taichi, 16th of October 2020. When people say less is more, I tend to agree. This match takes that idea to its logical conclusion. Taichi channeling his mentor, Toshiki Kawada, his trademark pose at the beginning of the match sets the tone for what's to come. A couple of kicks early doors getting under Ibushi's skin, leading to an emphatic response from the Golden Star. Suddenly the match becomes 20 minutes of kicks, and more kicks. A huge deviation from the G1 big match formula. The match becomes essentially a dick measuring contest between two of the toughest strikers the promotion has to offer. Stripping away everything else puts the focus on their character work and their selling, and both guys do a hell of a job to make a match like this work as well as it does. For me, it doesn't get boring in the slightest because of how hard they work to sell it. It's an utterly unique and ambitious match that won't be to everyone's taste, but I think should be seen and appreciated at least once. Match 6. Elio Del Santo vs Negro Casas, 19th of September 1997. The main event of CMLL's 64th anniversary show sees two of Lucha Libre's all-time greats battle with an incredibly bitter and hateful Lucha de Apuesta. Elio Del Santo putting his mask on the line against Negro Casas' hair, 10 years after Santito took Casas' hair in the WWA. The pair have switched alignments, Santo now a Rudo after Casas' technical turn a year earlier, but the crowd is divided. Rudo Santo still getting cheers, and Casas getting cheered too, a rarity in his career. Lucha Libre meets Shoot Star in this one. It's a fight, one that feels entirely real, the two beating the hell out of each other in an incredibly tense and back and forth war. The striking is brutal, headbutts and kicks and knees all being laid in. The grappling is gorgeous, but incredibly pointed and aggressive. Casas still has his Rudo tendencies, targeting Santito's limbs ferociously, and Santo is still a technical at heart, hitting his beautiful dives while showing Casas no mercy. To put on a match this violent and effective, without either man drawing blood, is incredibly impressive. So if you want to see how vicious and spiteful and nasty Lucha Libre can be, without wrestlers bleeding buckets, this is the match for you. Match 7. Kyoru vs Lioness Asuka, 15th of July 2001. Now for an entirely different but equally violent match. I spoke earlier about less being more. Sometimes though, more is just more, and this match is an all-time great example of it. The rivalry between Kyoru and Lioness Asuka may well end up being covered in a Wrestle Law video one day, but in the meantime I highly recommend this hardcore match between the two. It is truly a ludicrous bout. Kyoru wrapping Asuka in streamers to immobilise her for the moonsault, setting the tone for the match to come. Balcony hangings, missed spots, crowd brawling, and more table breaks and finisher kickouts than you can count. This match will not be everyone's cup of tea. It's an absurd match that has to be seen to be believed, and I highly recommend you see it. Match 8. Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane vs Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers, 7th of July 1990. The second incarnation of the Midnight Express battled the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys over the NWA US Tag Titles in the match of the night of the 1990 Great American Bash. On paper it's a fairly straightforward Southern style tag bout, but in reality I think it's nothing short of a masterclass. Steve Armstrong gets overlooked compared to Brad and Brian, but I really enjoy his work with Smothers, who for me is one of the most under-discussed and underappreciated wrestlers of the 90s. The Midnight Express are terrific as ever, delivering top heel work when on the attack, and bumping and selling and getting their asses beat with the best of them. Jim Cornette is among the best managers in the history of wrestling, and we get to see a lot of really fun work from him too. The match starts slow, but builds terrifically, the crowd absolutely electric by the end. The energy, the psychology, the sheer effort of everyone involved. This is a match every tag team should study, and every tag team wrestling fan should enjoy. Match 9. Eba-san vs Kishinbo Carmen, 1st of February 2003. The second 2 out of 3 Falls match collection could not be more different from the first if I tried, pitting two of the greats of comedy wrestling against each other. Super Delphin's Osaka Pro is among the great comedic wrestling promotions, and at their first Hurricane event in Osaka-jo Hall, Kishinbo Carmen and Eba-san put on one of my absolute favourite comedy matches. The first 2 falls are brief but perfectly executed skits, but the third fall is a different beast entirely. It's punchline after punchline, with a crowd that's as committed to it as the men in the ring are. Eba-san complaining about the referee's slow count causing him to nearly get pinned twice when he speeds up is a particular favourite of mine. They eventually run out of jokes and start taking the match seriously, the fall culminating in a great exchange of huge moves. Comedy wrestling is not for everyone, but I think everyone should give this match a try, an example of the near limitless potential of what wrestling can be. Match 10. Le Petit Prince vs Bobby Guinele, 22nd of May 1966. People constantly talk about wrestlers being ahead of their time, but if there's one wrestler who was truly decades ahead of the curve, it's Le Petit Prince. I was introduced to the world of French catch by the writings of Segunda Caída's Matt D. If there's one flag-bearer wrestler for that subgenre, it's Le Prince. He's an amazing babyface underdog, and paired with Guinele, the two do chain wrestling so impressive and athletic that if it were done today, people would say they were killing the business. They're so fluid and technically sound, but at the same time so in tune with standard wrestling psychology that the impressive arm drags, flips and kicks are almost secondary to the great heelish grinding down achieved by Guinele and the fantastic hook spots of Le Prince. It's a near perfect entry point to the world of French catch, which fans of lucha libre and modern work rate wrestling will certainly get a kick out of, and stands as undisputed proof that when it comes to professional wrestling, time really is a flat circle. That brings us to the end of the second volume of MixTape Study. If you want to see more of this series in the future, be sure to like and subscribe. Like with Volume 1, I've created a playlist with the matches that are available on YouTube, but the complete mixtape is available on the Patreon right now. If you do go and check any of these matches out, please comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Cheers.